Hey everybody, it's me, Will Hart, here in Orlando at this year's Iris Family Gathering. I know you guys are used to seeing Nathan and Crystalline here, but if you've been watching these last few podcasts, you know Crystalline is on maternity leave. We love you, Crystalline. We're praying for you. And Nathan is in a family emergency with his family in Australia, and we love you guys, and we're praying for you guys. Can't wait to have you guys back here. But in the meantime, we're here in Orlando gathering with a few hundred of our missionaries and crying out and pressing in for more of God. We have leaders and speakers from all over the world, and one of my favorites is here with me today. I personally asked for this time that I could share and open maybe you guys up, someone who you may have never seen before. It's somebody who's doing massive things in the kingdom. My good friend, are we good friends?
Oh, cool.
Come on. Yeah, my good friend, Stephen Robertson. I want to share a quick thing, and then I'm going to pass the football off to you. I met Stephen in Brazil over the phone. I was with a friend of mine named Teófilo, who runs a massive youth movement in Brazil. And I was with him. We were hanging out, having coffee before meetings. And I said, T, I'm worried. I'm worried about where we're going. And a movement, I see, I see tons of young people, but I also see a lot of people that you might not put in that younger bracket. And how do we make sure that we reach a younger generation as the world's changing and transforming so fast? How do we stay relevant on reaching a younger generation? He goes, stop what you're doing, Will. I'm going to make a phone call. And he goes, boop, boop, boop. Next thing I know, I got a phone in my ear, and this gentleman's on the other end. He goes, you'll love him. Trust me. Just talk to him. And within about 3 minutes, I heard one of the most genuine, heartfelt cries for a younger generation, reaching a younger generation, but also such clarity on how to do it. After that phone call, I said, we have to meet. And it was just, I don't know, a month or two later, 3 months later. I don't even remember the timeline. Yeah. It's my months are blending together. You were on a plane with your lovely wife, flying out to our house. You sat in my living room and blew my mind, and blew Corey, our events coordinator's mind, and which has kind of led us up to here, with a bunch of fun in between, including fishing trips and all that stuff. I love this man. He currently runs the world's, I'm just going to brag on you for a second, the world's greatest summer school. And when I say summer school, don't think of where I went to summer school, and I did a lot of that. This is for the most elite, the most brilliant, the world's leaders' children, the nation shakers send their children to you to educate them, train them up, and prepare them for what's coming. Yeah. And they rent out campuses like Yale and UPenn, like the greatest universities in the world. They take them over for the summer with a barrage of activities, training them up, raising them up, releasing them.
Come on.
And he is a kingdom man, totally full of Jesus, radically on fire for the things of the gospel. And we get to have you here. Welcome, Steve. I was long, I'm sorry, but I barely even scratched the surface with you. I love you so much. I know you haven't been to Harvest School, and you just knew hanging around with Iris, but I just want to say this man carries that heart for the lost, the poor, the sick, and the needy. It's so great to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
How are you doing?
Well, after that, I must just say, if I cry all the time when you talk about the youth, because our heart and our passion for them is incredible. So thank you for having me here. I'm not sure what this conversation is going to be about. We certainly are in a secular business, which makes it a little bit different.
Yeah.
But we're pursuing the youth and the next generation so vigorously, and that's what drives us. We have a passion as a business, as a company for that, and that's a God thing, in a secular business. There's a real God thing happening in our business. And so
come on.
I don't know what to tell you about it.
Well,
so
I have a couple things. I brought Stephen in to come and speak to our movement. We had a breakout session yesterday to speak to our movement on how we can be reaching out a generation that literally the world has never seen. I know everybody talks about this is this generation, or Generation X, or Generation Z, and we throw out these terms, but I feel like what you do so beautifully is you put real statistics behind the terms, and you kind of encapsulate it for anybody to understand what we're talking about when we're talking about a younger generation, how to reach them. And you shared with me things that I never knew. Like, I'm raising a 12-year-old, and I see these things, but I've never heard it so concise and clear. And maybe there's a lot of moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, even young kids watching this. And just, I just want you to feel free to share about anything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So first of all, only my really good friends call me Stephen. So you know how close we are because he calls me Stephen. So that's awesome. No, I certainly answered to that. So I'm not sure who's listening, who's watching, but the conversation that gets started most easily for us is when we start to unpack a little bit of this generation, which we call Gen Z, Generation Z, I generation. There's a number of different names for them. 7 to 21-year-olds, roughly. People measure them differently. But the fascinating thing is our business is 40 years old, and so we have been running summer camps and programs, a whole range of them, some really high-end academic things, and some, as you would imagine, traditional sporting, tennis, and those kinds of things, for 40 years. And we do see students from 125 different countries and 50 different states that come visit us every summer. And so, as you mentioned, we get some really interesting people that come. We have next future leaders of countries and businesses, and we just have some just incredible people that come and choose to spend time with us, which is amazing, right? So that puts us in the place where we are right at the forefront of seeing this next generation come of age. And so for 40 years, that's what this business has been doing. And I've been involved for the last 20 years, and since we moved to America, Philadelphia, in the house.
I'm a PA guy myself. I did years in Pennsylvania.
Come on, right? So Philadelphia is in the house. So based out of Philadelphia, we now look at these students and sorry to say it like this, but we're looking at customers. How do we reach our customers, right? We're a business. We make money. We make profit. We're in business to make profit. And yes, we have an incredible product that we sell and deliver.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is seeing how the generations change and how they receive information and how they process information, how they behave. And this conversation started a number of years ago when a number of us, not Gen Zs, were sitting around talking. And as always, the conversation, well, when we were young, when we were their age, we never did it like this.
Yeah.
And the fascinating thing is, as you start to unpack the data that is already available about this generation, Gen Z, you start to realize that we are now in the midst of the most creative, the most cause-driven, the most entrepreneurial generation that we have ever encountered.
Okay.
That's like crazy. Yeah. That's awesome. But at the same time, the flip side of that coin, and in our business, we talk about everybody has their 10%, right? Their 10% I wish I could change in you. My wife has 10% she wishes she could change in me, don't you, Colleen?
I wish my wife only had 10.
Right? And so we're trying to we're positive because we're godly people, right? So 10% is it. And so the 10% of what Gen Z is going through right now is that they're the loneliest generation we've ever encountered, the most depression and suicide statistically that we've ever seen. And my heart's starting to ache as I'm speaking, right? This generation is growing up alone in their bedrooms. And why are they in their bedrooms? Because, excuse me, I should have done this. Because of this, right? They have a phone. So they connected 24/7, and they can sit in their rooms and connect with the entire world. And that 35% of their communication, 35% is done digitally.
Yeah.
So when we look at them and we want to talk like this, they want to talk like this. And so we're saying that's bad, but it's not bad. It just is.
How is that not bad? I mean, come on, like we all grow up having conversations and sitting around the dinner table, or, not all of us, but, how is that not bad?
You had to go there, right?
Yeah, how is it not bad? Like, you have to have personal interactions to create a healthy child, like I make my children, I make them look people in the eyes and, talk and be clear and concise and not hide in the back.
I love you.
But how is, you say it's not bad, but That sounds a third of their communication, over a third is.
And so the reason it's not bad is it's a judgment call that you're making growing up with your roots in a certain type of soil. The fruit that you are used to seeing and the fruit that you want to continue seeing because it's familiar is just that. Shake their hand, look them in the eye. How are you? Yes, sir, no, sir.
Yeah.
But the point is not about is it good or is it bad. It just is. The point really is that we can stand here, sit here, and judge whether it's good or bad. But within the next 2, 3, 5 years' time, what they are doing in terms of how they communicate will become the new norm.
Yeah.
Now, we hope that we can influence them. But here's the second point. And I'm not going to say second or third anymore because I'm not going to count, okay? So here's the next point. This generation is being mentored by their peers around the world. Now, what I mean by that is that my generation was mentored by the generation that came before us.
Right.
And that has gone down from generation to generation to generation. And that you are doing with your kids, you're trying to impart some of the things that you value to them. That isn't gone, but the bulk of what Gen Z is doing is they are looking at 14-year-old to 14-year-olds saying, is this behavior appropriate?
Yeah.
Is this communication appropriate? Is this dress code appropriate? And so they're looking for affirmation from each other. And why that's working is because technology has allowed them to connect worldwide.
Yeah.
Technology has allowed them to speak to their peers any time of the day, 24/7.
Right.
And what they've also done, and I've got to unpack this a little bit, is they have built what we call a curated stream of what's allowed in their lives and what's not allowed in their lives. So you are curated currently into my life.
Yes.
You can speak into my life and Colleen's life at any time of the day or night, and you do. Thank you for doing that. Really, thank you. And you have that permission to come into our lives. That means you can tweet, you can text, you can email, you can call, you can knock on my door and walk in, because I have curated you into my life, into our lives.
Yeah.
With Gen Z, they are curating every kind of possible feed. And the reason for it is this. We're all living in a world that is changing so rapidly. Moore's law, for those of you guys who know what that is the doubling time of technology, and it's usually used to speak about microchips. So the time it takes for a microchip to double in capacity or strength. But on a broader sense, Moore's law is showing us, we were listening to Ron yesterday, Ron
Hicks.
Hicks, talking about what's going on in the business world and how fast things are moving.
Yeah.
These students, these kids, these children, Gen Z, 7 to 21, have never, ever lived in a time where there is not 120,000 things a day, a minute, a second bombarding them.
Yeah.
So the millennials grew up playing with this technology.
Yeah.
They used it as a toy, right?
Yeah.
Because it was somewhat new. Gen Z is using it as a tool because they never had to say, oh, this is cool. What is this?
Right.
They've always had this as a tool, right?
Right.
So now what they have to do at the youngest age, including your son, I don't think you were there when I told the story yesterday, Josiah, 4 years old, we get invited into Will's house. You know what happens? We're busy talking and my beautiful wife, Colleen, is chatting to Josiah, who's just the most amazing young kid.
best.
I adore him.
I love him so much. Yeah.
My wife talks to him about a show about dinosaurs, A Land Before Time. If you haven't seen it, seriously, Land Before Time.
I grew up on it, yeah.
Come on,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So Josiah grabs, I think, Moosey's phone, voice activates it, searches Land Before Time, and while me and you are having a conversation, and starts to watch Land Before Time. 4 years old, right? So the point I'm making is that they are so full of technology, and we are asking them. Technology is requiring of them to filter information, to make decisions on everything that is coming, and they can't keep up.
Yeah.
So what do? They start to curate. I can't look. I'm going to look at this.
Right.
I can't. Oh,
No, you're
I'm
fine.
so sorry.
You're fine.
I use my hands. Am I still okay?
No, use them.
Sound-wise?
Use them. You're good. You're good.
And so they curate And as a result, what we've got now is that the curated stream on the 14-year-old is going to be a whole lot of other 14-year-olds that say 35% digital communication is okay. So it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
And so we can stamp our feet, but what we have to do is we've got to figure out how can we, as in your case, missionaries, people reaching out to communities, how can we as a business get into the conversation? How can we become influencers so that they curate us in so that we can start to speak into their lives?
You said something to me at my house that it's actually changed the way I've parented. And I mean, not completely, but something that I was struggling with. You gave me like a green light. I think that's probably a better way of saying it. You said we cannot just say it's bad. We cannot, like, it's too easy for the church to say it's bad, turn it off, shut it down. And I understand the reasons why. There's a lot of negative out there, but there's also a lot of good, and there's also a lot of this is the way that it is. Like, you told me a story. I didn't know my 4-year-old did that while you were there. You know, like, this is a part of their life. And one of the things you said to me was, Will, don't separate yourself from it. Enter into it with your children. So now my son and I get up in the morning during summer vacation.
Right.
And we get on and play Fortnite together.
Come on.
And before I go to work, I sit down with my son and we play Fortnite together for, maybe a game or two. In the mornings, it became a thing that we did over the summer because of the conversation that we have. And I know this is like I loved video games growing up because I was part of the first Nintendo and then like Sega, like that was my era. But even now, I'm so busy for it, but my son loves it. And I've started to enter into it with him. And we actually now have a game that we play together on our phone. So I'm traveling around the world. I'll FaceTime him or text and say, get on, and we will play together over, like, while I'm in Asia, while I'm in Africa, because with barely any bandwidth. And so you actually, like, it taught me to enter in how to be with my children in a better way. It's too easy to say how negative it is, but can you tell us some of the positive things, or as parents, as leaders, as people, moms and dads, grandparents watching? It's like, how can we enter in better?
So, thank you, Jesus, because you know what? The beautiful thing is that we are wired to connect.
Yeah.
This generation, Gen Z, are truly aliens. We have never seen a generation like this. They are not in any way other than a heartbeat and a passion for God that they haven't found yet, because everybody's wired like that. They are nothing like us. And so what the realization, the moment that you took out of that conversation was beautiful. It's incredible that once we start to look at how we engage with people, especially the younger generation, who are not coming to church, by the way. This is the post-Christian generation. It's been named that.
Wow.
We can't get them into church. If you've got them, that's amazing. Let me see how you keep bringing them and how you keep them. And one of the ways is to start speaking a language that they understand. And so a silly example like yours is, I speak to parents, I have an opportunity to speak to parents and to businesses about how do we bring these people on and what's the positive about them. And you're starting to see that. When you start to build community on their terms, you can start to build community.
Yeah.
And that gives you an opportunity to start to really bring them in, right? So using social media, digital media, using technology, which is where they live, is everything. Yesterday, we were in the meeting together just briefly, and we heard about, I've just forgotten his name, I've forgotten.
Which one? I don't know. Ron.
So Ron, I don't know him, so forgive me for forgetting his name. So Ron is trying to sell something to a group of people in Texas, a really cool technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really cool technology.
Like this is the stuff, and not only is that, he's the guy. I mean, he's amazing. Here he is trying to sell technology. And he tells a story about he comes there 2 or 3 times to this bunch of cowboys because it's to do with cattle, and they won't buy. They won't even listen to him. Why? Because he has a BMW out in the parking lot. He comes back in a truck.
Yeah.
And he's selling his product. And that's what I'm trying to say to you. We have to get into their space using technology to build start a communication, even with your own child. I have a friend who we had a similar conversation. He's the CEO of a company as well. And the conversation very quickly got around to computer games.
Yeah.
And led on to next time your son has friends around and they're playing Nerf gun wars in the basement, right? Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of
Right?
course.
Instead of just closing the door and letting them make a noise downstairs, you go downstairs with your phone and you video them having these Nerf gun wars, right? And then when the friends go home, you sit with your son and you edit that video, and now you start to teach them.
Yeah.
You coach them.
Yeah.
Parenting 2.0, coaching 2.0.
Yeah.
This is something that we have a different definition of what that means. You start to get curated into your own children's lives.
Yeah.
And now you are validated. Now you are somebody who they're like, this guy has qualified. Yes, he brought me into this life.
Yeah.
Yes, he's paying for everything, but that doesn't give him a right to be a part of my journey. We have to get into those journeys. And so on a personal level and on a broader scope of reaching like the masses, that process is critical in terms of understanding how important it is, regardless of the negative flip sides of that coin.
Yeah.
We got to use these powers for good. Because, I know Iris talks about stopping for the one, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that everything? It really is. But I can tell you now that God has given us a tool, technology, to stop for the one while we are reaching the nations.
Explain
and it doesn't have to change, right? Because we are able to curate messages so specifically. We're able to get into people's curated streams. And so while I'm connecting with you like this, if I'm able to tell that story, document that story without, and I'm saying that gently because I don't want it to become corporatized, all of a sudden, people that are on his stream start to see that. So because I'm stopping for the one, through that person, we can touch nations. We can touch nations. And you guys are. The technology's got to be used and got to be used well. We often shun it because, the social, but there's so much more to it than that.
I don't know if you know. I don't know if I've told you this, but I think I might have mentioned it. God did something when my son, the little 4-year-old, he did something when he was 6 months old, and I took a month off the road, and just to be with my kids and my family, and I let my wife go every day. So like I was just mom for a month basically, and she could do whatever she wants. So she would take off in the morning, come back whenever, just doing her thing. And I was home with this little 6-month-old, and I got bored. I remember seeing a video. No, I remember watching somebody balancing their son on their hand, like at a young age. They said, oh, at about this age, they can make their bodies rigid. Long story short, my wife would leave and I'd sit over the bed practicing. Have I told you this?
No.
Okay, so after like a week of doing this, my wife comes home. I decide to surprise her. I throw up. I say, grab your phone. I take my son, Josiah, 6 months old, and I balance him on my hand like a broomstick. I post it immediately to my Facebook.
Right.
Like, just, hey, having fun. He giggled his head off. It was 18-second video. I posted it, and within a couple hours, there was 100,000 views on it. Over the course of 5 days, we had 5 million views on it. Into like 5 million views, 60,000 comments. It went around the world. I could watch it hit time zones because of the languages that would come back in the comments.
Right.
And I'm sitting there in my teeny little house in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, off the road, and I'm reaching millions of people. And as I was I almost barely slept for a couple of days just watching the comments because they were coming in just like that. Because I see God in things. I said, God, what are you doing? He goes, you thought you had to travel the world to touch the nations. He goes, I can reach more people than you will reach in your entire life while you play with your son. And the comments were this, Stephen. The comments were, I remember my dad used to do this with me. It's so good to see a father playing with his son. I remember, and I ministered to, I personally messaged people. I ministered to so many people at home in that like week span. And not only that, it's gone around the world. So still like sold it to Discovery Channel, sold it to Lysol, bought it. At Facebook, the company Facebook purchased it from me to use in one of their campaigns about a year and a half ago. At that point, I realized this is bigger than just my mom and dad seeing photos and pictures. That this is an actual tool to use for outreach. And I don't handle it well. Anybody that follows me knows that I'm still trying to grow in it. But you shared a couple of statistics, and I was hoping just for those who are listening, you could share some of those stats on like how many people are being reached, the timelines, like what it looks like, and maybe you can give some of the moms, dads, grandparents, young ones, like some pointers on like where should we go, what should we do, how do we do this well, and how do we create a space where Christ is glorified, and does it have to look like what most people think it does, like posting scriptures every day? Give me some insights.
So come on, that story, and first of all, I know this guy. 5 million views. He's a friend of mine. Okay,
in 5 days.
Come on. So he's a friend of
And
mine.
it got
That's
so
awesome.
big, they took it. It was removed after 5 days. They didn't know what was happening.
Now think about that story that you just told. Think of the platform that you created by using that as an option.
Yeah.
You weren't ministering, but now you have an option. A friend of mine I had breakfast with yesterday morning, guy who's from Brazil, Felipe, I just adore him. He's from Dunamis movement. His feed, as I was sharing a little bit yesterday, is incredible. The story he tells in his feed is amazing. He loves coffee, and it's all about coffee and his wife in travel, but he also touches the nations. Well, guess what? Somebody connected with him over coffee. Turned out this gentleman was a pastor in Europe, and he's gone on to minister in this person's place. So some of the stats, like it's really hard because I'm not sure who the demographic is, and there's just so much out there. The first thing that is critical is getting over the concern that social media is bad and understanding that if we choose to use this tool is a tool that reaches Gen Z quicker than any other tool.
Wow.
So if I really want to have a conversation with the youth, which just wrecks my heart, this is where we begin, social and digital media. It's the quickest way to reach out to them and connect with them. So that's your motive. That's your why. That's your why you won't get tech fatigue and be like, oh, what's this new app? How does it work? Oh, I don't know. That's your why for not saying, well, all the negative things that happen, I'm not going to do it. The why is because you will reach this entire generation. They are looking and listening. And bear in mind, they don't yet fully know how to communicate another way. This is their go-to language, right? So we need to learn it. So where do we begin? So if you look at some stats, I'll just share a couple of stats with you that are interesting. The average lifespan, let's do that, of a tweet is 18 seconds.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
So Twitter, if you tweet something, podcasting with Will, 18 seconds, 18 minutes. That chances of that being viewed again are remote. Okay. So I can make a mistake, post it, it will live forever. But if it's general news, usually 18 minutes, and that's where connecting, if you're a business or if you're an outreach, that's where the connecting and the sharing and how that network works helps grow that. Facebook, 2.5 hours. Okay. That's the lifespan, depending again on how much it's shared and so on. Instagram, 19 hours, YouTube, 6 days. If you're going to do anything in the social and digital media space, the place to be is Instagram, and the second place to be is YouTube. Now, depending on a demographic that you're pursuing, Facebook is still strong for certain things, and podcasts and streaming and that kind of thing. They give you the live streaming. Those things are valuable. But let me share some.
He's pulling up a new slide. I can't believe I'm going to share this, but I stopped really watching TV. I watch YouTube.
Nobody does.
I watch preachers, teachers. I watch, things that I'm interested in, and tools and carpentry and woodworking, and like those are and I spend more time on that because they're short too. So like in my busy life, right? I'm running around.
You're curating.
Yeah, and I love it. And there's people that I follow, like I can't wait for them to post a video every day. Like I literally go, what day is it? Because I want something from that person, a 10-minute clip from that person.
So personal versus business is very different here in terms of what you should do, how you should do it. And seriously, anybody out there, connect with me if you want to have a one-on-one conversation. It's not my business, but I love it. And so I will share what we do as a business with any of you. Of course. Instagram has over 1 billion users. YouTube has 1.5 billion users. 80% of the users are outside of the USA. Wow. That is spectacular. So if you're trying to have a message that is global, wow. Facebook, did I say that? Because I meant Instagram and YouTube. Facebook has 2.25 billion users. They had a little bit of a stumble because of security recently, but they're still really strong. And that excludes China because Facebook is not currently usable in China. So that's a really interesting thing. Depending on a little bit on where you want to be, bear in mind that the way you tell the story is probably twofold. One, you use social media like Instagram to, and I I'm lucky enough to lecture a lot on interview skills. And so I'm teaching high school students that Instagram is more powerful than your resume. And people that work with me know I won't hire you unless I can find you on social media and I check you out on Instagram first. I won't even read your resume.
That's crazy.
Because Instagram for me tells you such a powerful story. Pictures,
Yeah,
1,000
they
words,
tell
right?
1,000 words.
And so it's a good place to be there. And people are saying, well, is it a fake? Well, of course it's fake, but you're trying to show whether it's a region, an area, whether it's a certain target audience you're trying to reach. I'm a different person at home than I am at work sometimes, which probably you shouldn't be, but I am. No, in a good way, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And so depending a little bit on what you want to do with your social media, you have to present yourself accordingly. And so sometimes you have multiple. So maybe you want to be my friend on Instagram, but maybe my professional Instagram needs to look a little different. If you're a missionary and you're in areas where you're not allowed to do this, maybe your Instagram is about the library that you run. It's not about you doing missions work.
Right.
So you've got to be really thoughtful about what that looks
Right.
like. And remember, this stuff never goes away. But just bear this in mind. The world is changing so fast. I think we're in the process of writing a book, and the summary of the book is this. This Generation Z are aliens. We've never seen a group like this. You have aliens living in your house right now. And at the end of the book, what ends up happening is we end up telling you that actually we're the aliens living in their world. They are busy changing our world. And so if I can share anything, the realization that we need to look at how we engage with them and the world differently, because the world is changing and it's changing us without us even knowing it. If we look at, I shared this yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm going to share just a couple of thoughts on it.
Go for it.
The time it took for a certain
share this
product
Yeah.
to get 50 million users, right? And this is not mine, so I'm not claiming it as my source. It belongs to somebody else. 50 million users. Airlines took 68 years to get 50 million users. The car, 62 years. I'm going to skip through a couple. The telephone took 50 years to get 50 million users. Wow. Television, 22 years. Now I'm going to really skip forward. The cell phone took 12 years to get 50 million users. YouTube, 4 years. Twitter, 3 years. And Pokemon Go, 19 days. What does that tell us? Our world is changing so quickly. We may not even be aware of it. Where 50 million people can follow or connect with Pokemon Go just like that, it shows you that we have to be rewired because the world as we know it will not exist tomorrow. Within our lifetimes, you heard it here first, maybe not first, but you heard it here almost first-ish. Within our lifetimes, we will be jobless. Artificial intelligence and robots will do all the work that exists. Now, people, I'm not trying to get into an argument. If you have that as a mindset, at least you'll be a little bit more open to adjusting to this generation that's growing up in a soil that's different than anything we've ever had. And they can't be like us. They will never be like us. We have to learn to be like them if we truly want to reach them. And I'm telling you now that this is one of the tools that we have to use to reach this generation, or we will lose them. They have curated us out. We have to figure out how to be curated in. Otherwise, we will never get a chance to impact their lives.
Yeah. You mentioned, I believe it was you that mentioned it at my house about Alibaba, and they made was it the CEO of Alibaba, which for those of you who don't know, it's it's larger than Amazon, correct? Or it's like Asia's Amazon.
Oh, it's one of the biggest in the world.
It's one of the biggest companies in the world.
So Jack Ma, that's right. I was in Switzerland at the same time. I think it was in February this year. He was at Davos speaking at this big convention. And what he said was, teach your children how to be creative, how to be on a team, how to use their imagination, things that robots can't do. Because within the next 5 to 10 years, the number of jobs that are going to be lost to those is going to be staggering. And we think now, we look around and we're like, oh, no, never. It's coming. Yeah.
So we serve the most creative God, right? So as the church, we are we serve the God of creation, creativity. You know, this is, I've been hearing it for years, guys. Like the Lord's releasing a creative movement in the church. We're seeing it. We're seeing the arts. Like you can't go to an event right now where there isn't somebody painting on the stage. Like there's been a bend towards this in the church, and And I think all of these stats, all of these things point to the gospel getting out to every tongue, every tribe, and every nation. And I think we've had an idea of what we feel like it needs to look like. Whether that's through like missionaries on the field, and that will never die, that will never go away. We have to have that. But the gospel has to go out to every person. I have a friend that does a work called One Nation, One Day. And when he went to do evangelism, on the stage, as he's on the platform doing a crusade, a text message was sent out to every single phone in the nation with the prayer of salvation and the gospel. Like literally, there was an opportunity in every person in that nation to receive the gospel on their phone. This sort of technology has never been even like thought of that the gospel be used this way. Even now, we use little chips that you can put in cards, and the Bible's going out through solar Bibles and chips, and people that for risking their life to have a Bible. Brother Yun is speaking right over there.
Right.
Risked his life just to carry a Bible, because of that physical paperback book. Risked his life, and the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that have been tortured for just bringing Bibles around. Now we can get the Bible on something this big, and it can get passed around and completely downloaded onto a phone, and it's hidden. It's like, I love this stuff. I get really excited when I hear about the gospel going out in this season. And for all of you guys, the reason why I wanted Stephen to come and share is because he has such a unique perspective on this. And every time I get around him, because of what he does and who he's around, and he is actually raising up that generation, the leaders of nations, leaders of leaders. The most influential people send their children to his school. Like his finger is on the pulse of this. And I know this might be different to maybe some of the testimonies that you've been hearing on this podcast up to this point, but I just wanted to take a moment and say, I so value what you're doing. What you're doing are those things that have been prophesied for years. Like you're getting the truth into that generation that's going to shake and move, and I love it. Like I want to send my kids to your school, but I don't think they would get in.
They're coming.
Yeah, we'll see. Listen, Stephen, we're out of time. If you have one thing that you would like to leave us with.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you just?
Yeah. When we've been around who God is and what God does, and all of us, I'm assuming that listening have, the story that we can tell about His love, touched and changed lives, miracles, healings. There's no other story like it. This generation is so hungry for a story just like that.
Yeah.
They are trying to find it in every possible way. So my encouragement is, please understand that the creativity that God is stirring in all the hearts is for a purpose, to figure out how to take that story in whatever situation you're in and figure out how to share that story, because there are people out there that need to hear it. Yeah. And it can be a little story, it can be a big story, it doesn't matter. If we get those stories out and use this technology for good, we will start to reach this generation. And this generation is cause-driven. Once they have a taste and see that it is good, that is where we are going to change nations quicker than we've ever seen before. Yes, we need the missionaries. We need the pastors. We need everything. We need that. But I'm just want to encourage you, please don't look at technology and the tiring strain of trying to keep up with technology as this negative, oh no thing. This is a gift from God. We can use this so powerfully, but you have to deliberately pursue it with a different mindset, a mindset of, this thing is a tool that I'm going to use to tell a story that nobody can resist.
And it's happening.
Come on.
It's actually happening right now.
It is.
Heidi herself is so bent right now on Bible chips. Like when she gets around these people that are making the chips, she actually met one of the inventors of these chips out of Asia a few years back. And like this is something that's very big on even on the heart of Heidi and the heart of Iris, is getting this technology out as fast as we can. We're here because of this technology. You're probably watching this on YouTube. Listen, I know this is a little different, but I could sit here and talk with you for hours. Stephen, what is the name of your school? Because I'm sure people are interested.
So Julian Krinsky Camps and Programs is, it's a tough name. But if you want to connect with me, seriously, please ask Will. I would love to speak to any of you, just whatever.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just email me, will@irisglobal.org. I'll do my best to get back, or you can maybe put it in the comments if you have any questions. I'm sure Stephen will be watching this video when it goes up, and he can respond. We'll get to you if you have any questions. If you want to see the video, it's oh gosh, what's it titled? It's like baby laughs, balancing baby laughs. You can look at it. It's on YouTube. It has about 500,000 views on YouTube because I put it up. I didn't put it through YouTube. I did it right directly to Facebook. So it went up a couple days later. So if you're wondering, oh, there's only 500,000, it's because I posted it through Facebook, not through YouTube. But you can check that out. And I'm a little bit chunkier in that video. But so if you don't recognize me, I apologize. But God is good. Yeah, listen, we love you guys. Thank you for watching this amazingly unique, special episode of Iris After Hours. We just love you massive. My name's Will Hart. We're here in Orlando, wishing that you can be here with us. Listen, the next family gathering, you got to come. It's been out of this world. If you would like to maybe get some more of these podcasts, more of this information, or look at some of the other ones that have already come out, go to YouTube, check it out, hit like, hit subscribe. Just like I do. I'll tell you the one that I subscribe to, King of DIY. It's a fish tank. I don't know if you know this, but I was going to study aquaculture. It's the most watched thing that I do on YouTube. What I do is I hit that little bell every time a video comes up. I know that, and I get to watch my little 10-minute video on fish tanks. It's weird. I shouldn't admit that. But there's a little bell there. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit it. And anytime one of these podcasts comes out, you'll get notified. It's spectacular. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Iris After Hours. Thank you so much, Stephen or Steve. Which one? I'm going to call you Stephen.
Steven's.
It's the accent, man. It makes you just feel so official. It's South Africa, by the way, if you guys can.
And Philly.
And Philly, South African. Listen, love you guys. Bless you guys. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you on the next Iris After Hours.
This podcast is presented by Iris Global. For more information or to support the work of Iris Global, please visit us online at irisglobal.org.
You can also text to give. Simply text the amount you'd like to donate to 530-338-3837. Or to speak to someone at Iris Global, call our office at 530-255-2077.
Iris Global is an international Christian mission and relief organisation with a focus on working amongst the poorest of the poor and those most in need.
We hope this podcast has inspired your journey. Thanks for joining us for Iris After Hours.